Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with episode number 34 of Controversial Issues. This week, we'll be talking about to convert or not to convert. That is the question with Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Rabbi, welcome back to the show. Good to see you, as always. You crazy, Rabbi? No comment to that?
Hope everyone's doing good.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how everyone's doing after we start. We'll see if everyone survives.
There you go. So the context for our show is people are consistently asking, well, why do I need to convert? Or I want to convert. Why can't I convert? Or, there's so many variables of this. Coming from the people who are leaving the church. A lot of them who are coming out of the church are going as they're really way on another extreme side, and they don't want to have anything to do with Judaism at all. But they found out that the New Testament, all the New Testament teachings are in error, and they're very still anti-Semitic, probably bringing that in from their Christian background. And it's like there's just a lot of excess baggage that people carry, and a lot of them don't realize it. And so basically tonight we're just going to discuss literally, do I need to convert? Why would a person want to convert? Why shouldn't they want to convert? I want to hit this thing from like every angle. And so this is it. This may be.
Well, it's been a great show, Star. We gotta go. How much time do you got? Come on.
Yeah, right.
Going in every angle. You think you're gonna stay up all night for this? Come on.
Now I didn't say we had to talk like for an hour on every angle. hit the highlights.
I got it. I got it. I got it.
Hey, if we find something that's really that important and compelling, then we can just take it out as far as it needs to go. And we'll try to keep an eye on the YouTube channel for questions. I'm going to log into the Ring Central so that you guys can call in with your questions regarding it, because I know at least if you guys are going to be if they're watching live, they're going to have questions, probably questions we didn't ask ourselves or present. So let me sign in real quick.
I can't imagine that. Go ahead, leave the phone line open. Let's see. Let's see. Go ahead, call in. We need it. Let's go.
Right. That's funny. And the thing is, when you call in, we've got to keep it topic related, okay? So this is specifically talking about conversion to Judaism. And I realize there are really so many different angles and topics regarding this that this probably could go on for 5 or 6 shows. One topic that comes to mind is I want to convert, but I don't have an Orthodox synagogue near me, so I'm going to convert to Reform or to Conservative. What's that going to affect? How is that going to impact their walk halakhically? In the sense of how does Judaism, I would say the correct Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, isn't that what Orthodox really means? Is just the correct view, right? So Orthodox Judaism, what's their view on that? So
we're open-minded, but you guys are all wrong. So,
yeah.
We never make mistakes. So you wanna pick the wrong side? No, sorry. That's
right.
That's what can happen.
There you go. So
can happen.
So that's pretty much the direction we're traveling today. So if you want to call in, 855-95-BIBLE, it's 855-952-4253. The number will be on your screen in just a minute here. Bear with me. I'm trying to correct a screen imbalance here real fast. It won't take me just a moment. If I can click the right button here. And left side, right. There it is. That's what I wanted. Okay, good. All right, so I'll put the number on your screen now. 855-95-BIBLE. So call in with your questions regarding today's topics. Lines are open. So now we'll kick off with. Let me make sure I've got the music turned down and the phone line turned up. There we go. Okay, so let's first talk about, if you don't mind. In fact, I probably should write these notes down because I'm gonna get confused on what we talked about and what we didn't talk about. So let me keep notes as we go.
And the answer to number 7, question number 7, subset 250. Number 2 is.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so let me put this on. Controversial issues. Conversion. Okay. All right, so the very first question we'll talk about unless the phone rings is going to be, do I need to convert to Judaism to have an upright relationship with the Creator? That's going to be the first question.
No.
Okay, next question.
No. Next question.
That's funny.
Next question. If a person, most people that, we'll just say most people I deal with that come out of Christianity, probably 95%, there's probably even higher than that, probably almost close to 100%, they see that, that Christianity is false. They've come out and now they have to make a decision, or they want to make a decision which way they want to go. Should I go through conversion? Do I have to go through conversion? So when I speak to people and they say, yeah, I want to convert, and, I'll make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into. And then one of the questions will be, did you ever consider not converting, right? Did you ever consider, being a Noahide, right? Noahide, 7 Noahide laws, they're passed down from Adam to Noah. And whatever, they're just sort of the base of the, of these laws, that anything that makes rational sense, that a non-Jew has to keep. So one person contacted me and he said, I'd really love to convert, right? I'd really like to convert, but the problem is, I still like to eat shrimp. Right. So therefore we weren't so worried, right? We weren't so worried, about that. So we didn't want to, go through conversion. So there is no obligation to convert. The righteous of the non-Jews have a portion of the world to come. That's pretty clear, whoever that's going to be. Some people feel that they have this urge that, they want to do more than just, the Noahide laws. I don't think most people understand, what the Noahide laws are, what they're supposed to do. They think, they're only 7, but they're really much more than that. I mean, it does get a little bit complicated. What applies, what doesn't apply, how it applies, etc. So some people may want to convert, but, you brought up before, what about moving into a community, right? To be a Jew, you have to live amongst Jews. Probably the single biggest problem that people face today, when wanting to convert is moving, right? Because then once they finally see the light, they've come out of Christianity, they say, this is great, I want to convert, I want to be part of the Jewish people, and they live in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Any Jews in the mountains of eastern Kentucky? No. So they say, but now I've come to this conclusion, and now I'm stuck, right? So, when it comes to conversion, right, a person has the option. People say, well, if I don't convert, do I get the same portion of the world to come as a Jew? Well, the soul makeup between Jew and non-Jew is not the same. The mitzvahs that they perform are not the same. So why should the place where they're going to go in the future, why should that be the same? Right? But it doesn't mean they don't have, that they don't have a place, to go. So when it comes to, they have to know they have an option. Some people have contacted me, and said that, it's not, being a Noahide is not a viable option. Well, if God wanted everyone to be Jewish, we would have been. Right. Right? The whole world would have been Jewish. Right? So what do you mean he didn't want so what's the purpose of a non-Jew if he doesn't convert? See, well, there is no purpose. That's not true. Right? There are plenty of things a non-Jew can do and have a direct connection to God without any intermediary. Right? So that's, that is a huge, that's a huge thing. It is a little bit put offish for, non-Jews come out of Christianity and they want to go back to the Bible and learn and all that. They say, why, why stay a non-Jew? I should actually be a Jew. So again, is there an obligation? There's certainly not an obligation. The problem is most people don't know what it means, and how to have their connection to God, while staying as a staying as a non-Jew, and they'll think, oh, I'm less than a second-class citizen. We're not the same. God didn't create everybody the same, right? Men are created different, than women. We have different, if we're created differently, we have different obligations, right? Physical differences, spiritual differences, right? A non-Jew and a Jew definitely have differences, right? If a non-Jew wants to take on certain things, within reason, they're allowed to, but they can't do things like a Jew, very simply because they rejected the Torah. Their great 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 grandparents rejected the Torah, so therefore they can't take on things that that belong to the Jews, right? So there has to be there's a fine line, within that. They have to straddle that line, in order to do what they need to do. But most people want to do more than probably what they may be allowed to do, and these lines get more gray, so to speak, as they go along. So I would say, if you want to be a non-Jew and not convert, fine. Be a non-Jew and don't convert. You want to convert? Okay, so that's different, right? It's not the same, but again, there's no obligation, no obligation whatsoever, to have to go through conversion. And I'll tell people it's cost prohibitive, right? You have to move into a Jewish community. Kosher food is costs a lot of money. If you have kids, you have to educate them. It's like sending them to college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's extremely expensive to do it, right? And not only that, you have to move, right? So your job has to be flexible enough that you have to move. So that's probably the biggest game changer. So for people, even if they want to convert, there are a tremendous amount of obstacles, in the way, but there's plenty of leeway, for a non-Jew to be a non-Jew and still have that, personal connection.
Now, you said something a
most
minute
people
ago.
don't understand. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You said something a minute ago, and I was thinking of a possible comparison that may be inaccurate. In fact, it sounds like it is, but I want to bring it up anyway. So you said that so if a Jew has 613 commandments, and a Noahide has 60 or so,
right.
Just like they have different commandments to do, they should also have a different place in heaven. Now, the issue that my brain comes up with is like, it would be like my son and my daughter. They've got different roles that they play in my house. Like David gets all the rough, tough outside chores, and Sarah, unless she chooses to come join me, but they still have the same place in my home. Even if I adopted a child that wasn't even my blood relative. In fact,
But some people look at that as being, that's discriminatory, right? Why should they have a different place? Well, they're not created the same. If God wanted everyone to be the same, they would be.
So do women?
Right?
So you say women have a different place in heaven than men do, also?
Well, women are exempt. They, there are plenty of mitzvahs that they have to do.
Right.
Right. They are exempt by mitzvahs that are bound by time.
Okay.
Right. They get merit for doing them, but they don't have an obligation. Right. So if they're not learning Torah, which they don't have an obligation to do because, usually they're busy raising a family. So when the husband learns Torah, if he learns Torah full time, right, for however long, she gets the merit. She gets the mitzvah of that. She sends him to learn, right? Even if he works and he goes to learn at whatever, either before praying, after praying, or sometime during the day, she gets the merit of that. She gets the merit of that as well. So keep in mind, if she's married, it's one soul, it's husband and wife. So she'll get credit for what her husband does, certainly as well. It's not the same. I mean, it's not the same as a non-Jew because she's commanded, right? She has plenty more mitzvahs that she's commanded than non-Jew, no question about that. There's just certain things that she may be exempt, from doing, let's say like hearing the shofar or shaking a lulav, but, women have taken that on, today as well. The laws of Shabbos she has to keep, the laws of the holidays she has to keep, kashrut she has to keep, lashon hara she has to keep, there are plenty of things that, she has to keep that doesn't apply to a non-Jew at all. So, so her portion of the world to come, is certainly going to be different, than a non-Jew, and, there are plenty of women that have a tremendous portion of the world to come. A lot of it may depend on their husband, but it can depend on their own, righteousness, as well for, how they conduct themselves,
Okay.
etc. So we don't. We don't discriminate, in that sense. But but again, they don't have the same role, right? They don't play exactly the same role, which they which they shouldn't, because it's not a question. We've spoken about this before. It's not a question about everyone being equal. People have different roles, right? You can't have a shortstop that says I want to be the pitcher if he's got no arm. He goes, no, I want to be the pitcher anyway.
Right.
But you're not going to strike anybody out, you loser. Just stay, be the shortstop,
Right.
or
Okay.
play in center field. That's what you're destined to be. But I want to be the catcher. Yeah, I also want to be the ball boy. Like, get a life. Come on, you got to do what you're programmed. Where your talents are going to be best used. And if they're going to be used at shortstop, don't tell me you want to be the first baseman or you want to be the pitcher or whatever, right? The same thing. In Judaism, people make the mistake, and I've mentioned this, a lot, and I'll continue to mention it. The idea is we believe, that the Torah is true. God spoke to Moshe. Moshe passed it down, and God knows what's best for us. If He wanted women to be exactly like men, He would have given them the same obligation. The
Right.
fact that He didn't shows that they have different roles. You want to take that?
Yes, I do. Okay, caller, welcome to the show.
Okay.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hello, Shalom. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
My name is Brad. I'm calling from New Jersey.
Okay.
So actually, I have two questions, one related to the topic and one not related to the topic.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the first question is, there is nowhere in the Tanakh where it says that the non-Jews should convert or should follow Judaism. And also, without converting to Judaism too, they can get the blessings of God. I mean, Prophet Job and Cyrus are called as righteous people, and many of the non-Jews are called righteous people. So, does it really necessary for a person to convert to Judaism? He can still believe in God and, be a nice person.
Gotcha.
This is my first question.
Okay, we're only taking questions that are directly related to the title. So if your other question is associated with it, go ahead with that one too. If not, then we might want to save that for a different show.
It's about Judaism, but it's about a small controversy within two verses in the Torah.
Okay, why don't you do me a favor? Send me an email with that question because it doesn't sound like that's associated with today's topic. But if you want to send me an email, then we'll try to generate that on another show. Okay.
Sure.
So my email address is william@tanaktalk.com.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
My first question was clear, right?
I believe so. Yeah, basically, so are there examples in the Torah anywhere where people converted, theoretically, right?
Yeah, the point is, we don't need to really follow the culture of the Jews in order to get the blessings from God. We can follow just the 7 laws of that given to Noah, and So I want the rabbi's opinion on that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Brad. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.
Well, first you see by Parshas Yisro that Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, Yisro, or Jethro, if you want to call him that, he came, heard what happened by splitting of the sea, the war of Amalek, and he converted, right? The question is, it came before the Torah, it came after the Torah. That there's a whole discussion, but it's pretty.
Now, where does it say he converted?
Oral law says he converted.
Say again? Oh, oral law. Gotcha. Okay, so
oral tradition.
Okay,
that's where it's brought down.
Are there examples besides Ruth? With Naomi and stuff, are there places in the Tanakh, in the actual Tanakh, that show where people converted?
In the Torah itself, you got Bathia, you got the daughter of Pharaoh. When she went out to get Moshe Rabbeinu, she went to the river to convert. The commentaries tell us.
Okay, again, that's commentary,
okay, you want something, something explicit?
Yes, explicitly.
Somebody that
from Tanakh, something explicit.
The Torah says many times. It's more than 30 times. Ger, it talks about a ger. It talks about a convert. You want specific people? He's talking about the Torah itself speaks specifically, about converts, right? There's 30, I don't know, more 33, 36 times.
Okay.
That the Torah mentions about. Maybe about not, doing terrible things or speaking badly against converts or, whatever the case is, but makes clear there is such a thing. There is such a comment. There is such a idea of converts to Judaism.
Now, I've been under the understanding that the term ger is not a convert. A ger is actually someone who hasn't converted, but they accept Hashem. They accept this Noah.
It depends. It depends where. It depends in the context. Not every time it says ger, it means a ger toshav.
Okay.
Right. A ger toshav is somebody that, was a non-Jew, lived amongst the Jews who denied idolatry. Right. But a lot of times, so there are plenty of times when it says ger, it means a ger toshav. Doesn't mean a convert. But there are plenty of times where it says, where it's talking about a convert.
Right.
Right. There's not. We don't have a shortage. We don't have a shortage of that. So, it can go both ways, but obviously, as we always mention, everything has to do with, everything has to do with concept, context. One thing I wanted to answer that, that Brad had mentioned about, why do I have to convert? You don't have to, right? There's no question, that a person doesn't have to convert. But, what he said is, well, you can just hold by, the Noahide laws and be a righteous Gentile. Now, keep in mind, you have to do, and you have to keep whatever makes rational sense. Like, you can't kill, you can't, adultery, like other things, that make rational sense. But it's according to the Torah, right? It's according to what the Torah says. It's within that context. When you talk about the Noahide laws, what you have to keep and what you don't have to keep, that's going in the context of Torah. It's not just, some make-believe, some idea that, if I feel like doing it, fine. If I don't feel like doing it, whatever. It's within context. It's not just, well, yeah, I can be a righteous Gentile by, by doing these things. Well, how do you know what to do? How are you going to know what to do if the Noahide laws are very unclear in the Torah? Right? Again, they're only the base. There are plenty of things, within the Noahide law that most people would never think of. That would think even, apply to them. Just one example. One example is if you take a peach and a plum and you graft them together and you make a nectarine, right? So that a non-Jew's not allowed to do, right? The Torah, whatever. It seems the whole question. The whole question, if a non-Jew is liable in such a thing, it seems like he is, right? But you're still allowed to derive benefit from it. So therefore, even if you have non-Jewish farmers, or Jewish farmers that put these two things together, right? You're still allowed to get benefit, from it. So most people say, oh, that's not one of the Noahide laws. Yeah, think again. There are plenty of things out there most people are not, aware of. But make no mistake, it's within context. It's within context of what the Torah says. It's not just like what I feel like doing and and this and that, or what I think makes sense, right? We mentioned, it has to make sense according to our own understanding, but obviously it comes with, under rabbinic guidance, not just, not just, general ideas. But his main point is true. You don't have to go through conversion. A person can certainly be a, righteous Gentile. You just have to know, how to do it, and know how to keep the laws that they need to, that need to be kept. Otherwise, any law that they transgress, they're liable for the death penalty. So that's, obviously, that's obviously bad. So, therefore it has to be known what they are.
Okay, so the verse that I was thinking of was Esther 8:16 or 8:17. Where it does indeed say that many of the people of the land became Jews. So it's definitely, I guess you could say in the Tanakh that conversion is legitimate. I mean, here it doesn't say how they did it. So
right.
we can't assume they did it just because they had a change of heart. Well, I mean, if anything, if it says they became something, we have to figure out, well, they went through a process to become something. They didn't just change their heart. So, and so.
No, but you see by the story of Ruth, the same thing. I mean, there are a number of questions in the book of Ruth about that, about that as well, because, I mean, it seems to be contradictions.
Right.
The fact that Ruth says, Naomi seems to call her a Jew, and says, "Your people are my people." So the question is she a Jew? She's not a Jew. Did she convert? She didn't convert. Exactly. How did she convert? And look what happened to Orpah, right? Her conversion didn't seem to be so valid, or was it? I mean, the whole question, what was done. But if you look at, the problem is, if you look at what happened in Tanakh, it's not necessarily clear at all what they did when they went through conversion, which is another whole can of worms you just opened by saying that. Well, someone texted me recently, going back and forth different things about conversion, coming to Israel, doing the army, and different, how all that works. If you want to convert or whatever. One of the last questions I got is why is the conversion process so long? Right? It should be a lot shorter. Why is it so long? If I get a chance to I get a chance to answer, but let's make clear that in days gone by, if a non-Jew lived amongst the Jewish people, and lived within where the Jews lived, they could have learned things by osmosis.
Right.
You wouldn't need someone to give classes. Especially someone like ranting and raving and jumping up and down and yelling and screaming without caffeine. I mean, it'd be a lot easier. But we don't live in those times. A person could live amongst the Jews and still have no idea what to do, right? Someone once told me, they said, yeah, but it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah or the Talmud that you have to live amongst the Jewish people. So I said, you're right, it doesn't. They said, well, why do you have to? I said, you want to know why I have to live amongst Jews? I was like, this isn't even double jeopardy. This is easy. Right. How are you going to learn to be a Jew if you don't live among Jews?
Right.
You don't need the Talmud to tell you that. It is pretty obvious. There is a case if a person never knew about the laws of Shabbos, and the person became a Jew. You don't disqualify him for that, because let's say he lived in some desert somewhere, or whatever, didn't know about the laws of Shabbos. You don't necessarily disqualify them, for it. But that's the whole point about living among Jews. You're not gonna know what it means. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is that there's a lot of things that are complicated, and therefore in today's day and age, you have to know the basics. But the basics don't mean you have to know everything. The rabbinical court wants to know you understand what Shabbos is, you understand what the festivals are, you know how to make blessings, you can read Hebrew, you know what the 13 principles of faith are. Basic things. I mean, you're going to learn in depth, right, after conversion as well. That's the whole point. They understand you don't know everything, right? But at the same time, you have to spend a lot of time learning, so at least you minimize mistakes after conversion. You have to know what kashrus is. You have to, how to set up a house, to keep it kosher. What if you only have one stove or one sink, or there are practical things, that a person has to know. Should it have to take 7 years? No. Right? It takes more or less probably a couple years. You have to live in a Jewish community. It takes at least a few years. It can take, between 2 and 3 years. Right? People say, no, I want to do it quicker. It's to your disadvantage.
Agreed, yeah.
To have it, to have it done quicker. The rabbinical court will never do it quicker. They want to see, what another important thing, by the way, and I get flack for a lot of this. You think you get flack. I get flack for a lot of this also. They say, well, I'm poor. I can't afford necessarily to move into a Jewish community. The Jews should help me. Why should the Jews help you? If you move into the community, it's one thing, right? But we have enough of our own people to take care of. Let the non-Jews take care of the non-Jews. Why is that our problem? Now, that may be, person may see that as being cruel, and being harsh. I had someone, contact me that was disabled, and, they tried to show that they're the real deal and everything else, and that, they were upset that they want the Jewish community to help them move. Well, we're not a charity fund. We may give a lot of money to charity, but why is that our obligation? Yeah, we have to have compassion. certainly, for others. But how is someone going to prove themselves unless they move?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that's the single most difficult thing. And the rabbinical courts are going to want to see more than anything else that a person's stable, that they can support themselves. Doesn't mean that, that they're rich, but they have to show some level of stability because, the Basin's going to think, this rabbinical court's going to think that why are you coming to us? You're coming for financial help. Maybe what maybe for the sake of conversion, you're legit and you really want to do it or whatever, but on the other hand, it kind of looks funny. Like, this person cursed me out, sent me this, a few nasty emails saying you're going to pay and you're going to fry and the Jewish people this and the Jewish people that. I'm like, why are you coming to me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that my issue? It's not like I'm not compassionate. I don't feel your pain. I'm not saying I don't think you're legit. I'm not saying that, but you expect the Jewish community to open up the red carpet. Keep in mind, non-Jews, converts have given Jews the bad name throughout the millennium. We're not just going to roll out the red carpet. Anyone's going to want to join. This guy got helped, and someone else got helped, and a third person got helped. We got plenty of our own. I mean, day in and day out, people have difficult situations.
We have concepts that we exercise, all humanity, that are in line with this. I mean, you've got college. You don't just go in for 6 months and get your diploma. It takes you 4 years, even silly things that, may not be silly, but like, for example, my son, he wants a dog. Okay. And, so I've given him a few other things that are very less likely to be injured, to see if he can take care of them first before I go and give him a dog. And until he passes that, I'm not going to give him a dog. I don't care how much he wants one, because if he can't take care of the small things, there's no way he's going to be able to commit to properly handling this animal on his own. And so, in general, in humanity, we have all these rules that we accept for ourselves, but when it comes to Judaism, we want to throw down the hammer and say that's not fair. And
I mean, anyone who converts to any other religion, there's criteria, right? Say, well, your criteria is more difficult than anyone else. Well, we have a lot more laws than other people. There are, physical laws, there are moral laws. There's, right. I think there's a lot more. I mean, you want to convert to Christianity, that's not so hard. You don't have to, not so much dogma there that you have to keep or whatever. It's relatively easy. This is, you got to learn a new language, a new culture. I mean, you have to eat gefilte fish. That'll kill anybody, right? That'll probably stop anybody, at least with the jelly and the fish balls. That'll probably convince most people not to convert. But, it is a catch-22. Now, some people get stuck in the process and have other issues, which, I'm not saying that, they won't necessarily have, legitimate complaints, but you have to have some semblance of criteria, that you have to meet. Now, some are more strict, some less strict, whatever the case is. But again, keep in mind, the rabbinical court that's going to put their name on this conversion, if that person goes sour or they convert for the wrong reason, and the rabbinical court got messed up in the process because of it, the rabbinical court, whoever signed on it, they get all the transgressions of this person, if the conversion was done right. So they're not going to put their name on it. I mean, unless they're fraudulent, which, again, there are some that are, but they're not going to put their name on something if they're not sure, right? If they're not 100% as sure as they can be that this person is going to become the best Jew that they can be. Can they get messed up? Certainly can get messed up. We're going to have 3 shows just on the rabbinic court process, and what goes on. But it's an issue. It's an issue because sometimes there is, preferential treatment. There could be payoffs. There could be other things, things that aren't right. But in general, all things being equal, you have to have some level of criteria, and it can't be, if it's just read a few books and and then you're done, that doesn't mean anything, right? If it's not taken seriously, even if you learn a little bit, a person goes through reform or conservative conversion, so you learn a little bit, about the holidays and a little bit about the life cycle, and you learn a little bit of Hebrew, and that's it. And then they find out they're more religious than most of their most of their constituents, as you mentioned, like, we believe we're the only ones because the other ones just don't work, right? You can't pass it down to the next generation. I don't care what your belief is. If your next generation is disappearing, which they all are, 60, 70, 80% into marriage rate, I could care less what your philosophy is. You prove to me that it works, right? If you can't prove to me that it works, then then you can all eat the same hallucinogenic mushroom in the desert. I don't care. Show me it works. If it doesn't work, then get out. It doesn't, that's totally irrelevant. That's why, that's one of the main reasons why these other conversions Orthodox won't recognize, because they don't believe the Torah is true.
Right.
They don't believe there's an obligation to keep it. So if the rabbis themselves, don't keep Shabbos, right? If they don't keep Shabbos properly, they have the status of a non-Jew. So how could a non-Jew be in a rabbinical court for conversion?
Right.
They make it as a travesty of a mockery of a sham. So, that's why, I'm not here to, make fun. I could have a field day with some of the things that they say, but, I'm not interested in making fun. I just want to show that if these people don't take it seriously, or they take it seriously at their level, but that doesn't really mean that much because they're not observing that much. And if they're not observing that much, then it's a joke. And if it's a joke, then why do you want to be part of it? Right? That's why a lot of people end up going through these other conversions, and then they see, wow, this really isn't, what I thought it was, etc. And they end up going through an Orthodox conversion because they see that, what they went through is just, is just a joke. And again, if the rabbis themselves, don't believe in God, or, they believe, but he's, he doesn't interfere in history, right? It's one of the 13 principles of faith. That's the main belief that God exists because he took us out of Egypt, right? That's the first of the 10 commandments. The reason it says he took us out of Egypt instead of creating the world because there were 600,000 Jews, men between the ages of 20 and 60, not including women, right, that came out of Egypt, right? So if they came out of Egypt, if they came out, there's 3 million people. So, that's 100%, that's 100% legit over there, but, everything else, we're not going to hold them because they don't, they don't believe in that aspect, whatsoever. So if they're not believing that, God's in charge and he runs the world and all that, what are you doing being a rabbi? You don't, and then you're going to do same-sex marriages and other things. So you're going to have them, part of your rabbinical court. We're going to say that's not legit because you're going against major tenets of the Torah.
That makes sense. Okay. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Emmanuel Wodo, and I'm calling from Beaufort, Georgia.
Welcome to the show. How can we, what's the question for Rabbi?
Yeah, I have a question for Rabbi. If you have come all the way from like Christianity and turned into Judaism, how do you go from there? Because excuse me, some synagogue, Orthodox synagogue doesn't allow people that are not Jews. So how do you walk from there?
Okay, so are you wanting to convert, or you don't want to convert, but you want to continue going to the synagogue? Which one of those is correct?
We wanna convert, me and my family, because we go to Messianic Jew, where we are taking classes for Hebrew, and we're gonna be graduating for Bar Mitzvah classes that we're taking, but we want to move on into full Judaism. Okay,
so you're saying you're no longer Messianic, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Had me worried there for a minute. Okay. Okay, so you want to convert.
We're going to have to exercise them. Send them a virus.
So you want to convert, you and your family want to convert to Judaism. You were Christian, and then you moved from Christianity to Messianic Judaism or Messianicism, and then and now you're leaving both of those behind, and you're wanting to convert to pure Judaism, no New Testament. But you're having problems getting in the groove in your synagogue, basically.
Yes.
Okay, that's clear enough. Okay, Emmanuel, hi, thank you for calling in. Go ahead and hang up, and you can tune in. You can just watch in for your answer, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, so basically he's in a bind. I mean, and it may be, Rabbi, that maybe and I should have asked him while he was on the phone, maybe his rabbi is aware that he was Messianic and they're skeptical of them truly leaving the New Testament behind. I do know people personally in that boat.
Right. Yeah, so normally in places in Europe, places in South America, you need actually a recommendation, I think, from another rabbi in order to go to synagogue, because they have no idea who these people are. They have security, etc. They want to, know who these people are that are, that are coming. But somebody, so this is like a big catch-22, because someone who's come out of, someone who's come out of the church, and now they're Messianic, and now they want to come, right? Yeah, it does look kind of, look kind of funny. The only thing I can say is that, you're going to have to show them beyond the shadow of a doubt that, you are the real deal. You don't believe in JC. You're not interested in believing in JC. You kick JC in the head if you saw him. Whatever the case is, you have nothing to do with that. You were part of it. You left it. You have no interest in it. You only want, what God says, that God said to Moshe. Moshe, passed it down. You only want that aspect. So, what a person has to do, and a lot of people, have this issue, is that, synagogues are not that friendly, right? Mm-hmm. Orthodox synagogues, maybe except for Chabad, are not necessarily, so user-friendly. And, they don't necessarily have to be, because, they want to make sure, that a person, if they're interested in conversion, first of all, most people, even if they're accepted by a rabbinical court, and they want to convert, most of them flake out. Most of them, meaning probably more than 80%, even if they're accepted by a rabbinical court, do not end up converting. Right? So rabbis understand what these statistics are. They're more interested in working with Jews that don't know anything about Judaism, than working with non-Jews, because the mentality is very different. Right? Most Orthodox rabbis don't understand what it means to come out of the church. They don't understand what it means to be a Messianic, or mention the word Noahide. They won't know what that is either, to a certain extent. So at the same time, they're not necessarily equipped, to deal with this. They're not necessarily so interested. And because of previous history, what non-Jews, what, converts have done over the years, so they're not going to be that welcoming and say, well, so then someone will call in and say, so what do I do? How is it possible, for me to be able to come to synagogue? So the only thing you can do is be persistent. Now, you didn't hear me say this, even though we're taping this. You didn't hear me say this, but, you have to be like a broken record and, just be as persistent as possible, because no one's going to make life easy. I mean, I wouldn't just show up for the sake of showing up. That might, certainly make Rabbi feel uncomfortable, others feel uncomfortable. You have to have permission to come, but at the same time, you have to be on top of, what direction you're going, and, and be persistent, in the sense that you'll do whatever it takes to be able to do it. So that means, every week, every other week, whatever it is, you email the rabbi, you contact him, you try and, speak to him. You have to show beyond the shadow of a doubt this is what you want. Because, make no mistake, the red carpet ain't coming. You have to make your own. And if someone, I've mentioned this a lot also. I mention a lot of things a lot. I just repeat myself. Anyway, that a person cannot be an introvert. If a person's introverted in this process, there's no possible way, no offense, but there's no possible way a person's going to survive the process. The reason is because you have to have extremely, extremely thick skin. Mm-hmm. Someone contacted me from I don't know, I forget, some hick place somewhere, and they said they contacted like 20 different synagogues, 30 different rabbis, and they found one that even spoke to them. You know who that one is? You're looking at him right now with this chrome dome. They're like, wow, you're the only one that spoke to me. And it's like, why would you even want to speak to me? I'm like, click. I'm like, gee, I don't know. It must be some sort of, I don't know,
Pardon me.
some sort of penance or something that we all have to go through and suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to deal with them. They have to deal with me. Most people do not want to deal with this and don't want to touch it with a barge pole. There's a reason. There's a reason that converts do not have a good name. So people have asked me, what are you, crazy? Why don't you work with Jews? I go, Jews don't like me. Non-Jews like me better, so I'll stick with non-Jews. But non-Jews need to be helped. They need to understand the ropes. They need to understand what Judaism is, how to navigate their way. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's rocket science, but someone coming from the outside looking in, it's certainly not an easy thing. But again, a common thing I get is they constantly get rejected. The non-Jews don't want them. Non-Jewish family members certainly don't want them. Jews don't want them. They're like, nobody wants us, right? So, okay, that may be true, but a person cannot get sidetracked, in this process. If you get sidetracked, add on 10 years, because you just, you don't focus. Doesn't matter what a person says. Doesn't matter what the rabbi says. You have to have tremendously thick skin.
Right.
In this process. One thing that comes up quite a bit, even if a person's in a community, they didn't get invited for Shabbos, right, or for the holidays, they don't necessarily look Jewish. They're going to say, oh, so why do you want to convert?
Right.
They're on stage, and people don't like that. All right, the first time, fine. Second time, whatever. After like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th time, they're like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Like, why not? It's so interesting, and you have such an interesting story. People don't necessarily like to be on display. There are a lot of, there's a lot of factors that, that go on, that even if they move into a community, things are uncomfortable. If you're on the, if you're not, see, the other problem is if you're not within walking distance also, why is anybody going to want to deal with you? Because you're not showing that you're serious, because,
Right.
You have to be within walking distance of a synagogue. Now, some people will say, a lot of people I deal with don't live within a Jewish community. Some people, 45 minutes away, an hour away, a couple hours away. So, so someone will say to me, how can you work with them? They're not serious. They don't live in a Jewish community. So, that may be true. But at the same time, right, the people I deal with, their goal is, and my goal for them is, move to a community. Whether it takes 6 months, takes a year, takes a couple years, that's where you need to get to. Right? That's for sure where you need to get to. But at the same time, if you're serious enough and you certainly survive my craziness and everything comes out of my mouth, then either you're 100% the real deal or crazy or both.
Right.
But at the same time, you'll get the knowledge that you need and the guidance you need. Why in the world, if you don't live in a community, should that necessarily disqualify you from getting proper information and guidance? It's going to save a lot of time and a lot of effort once you move into the community. Because once you move into the community, the rabbi may ask us, oh, have you been learning? And you say, yeah, I've been learning for the last 2 years. And say, really? Mention my name. It's like, oh, him? It's like, oh, forget it. He's not legit. He's just he's just a live wire, no caffeine. So, but when a person's been learning for a couple years, they go through blessings and Shabbos and kashrus and prayer. The only thing I don't teach is Hebrew, so you got to figure out that on your own, right? But if you go through all these different things, you go over and over and you come into the community, that makes you look 10 times stronger than if you just sat and, you spun your wheels for so long. So one great rabbi took me to task and saying, you're not allowed to do that, you shouldn't do it or whatever. I said, is it better that they get proper direction and eventually getting to where they need to get to? Or you tell me I should just leave them out there and let them spin their wheels and get nothing?
Right.
So some people will say it's, let them find their way. But who says you have to deal with them if they don't live within, a Jewish community? Now that doesn't necessarily mean, that they're not legit, because most people, by the time they get to me, they've been out of Christianity for a while. They've been lied to and duped for so long that, they want to know what the Torah says, and they'll do whatever it takes to get there. Now, regardless if it takes a year, or 2 years or whatever, to get to where they need to get to, it doesn't mean necessarily they're not serious. It just means they can't get up and move right now. right? So
Okay.
better they get proper direction than spin their wheels.
Right. Very good. Okay, let's take this next caller. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
This is Graham from Southern California. So I just had a question. So I'm converting to Orthodox,
Okay.
and obviously I'm Ashkenazi. So, but there's also Sephardic synagogues, and I just would like a little bit of clarification on the different ones and a little bit about some of the different traditions and things like that. Because in Los Angeles, there's a lot of different kind of synagogues. There's, Shabbats. There's all different kinds. So maybe for some of the other people, just maybe an answer on what the different kinds are. So when we're going to a shul, maybe we can understand if we go to one, why they're different from the other for like the Orthodox. And then I can just hang up to listen.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Graham. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye. Okay,
right,
we'll
so,
just real quickly, we're going to wrap up with this one because it's going to take you a little bit. We got about 8 minutes or so, and I'm sure it'll take every bit of that and then some. So it looks like our next show will probably be a follow-up of this. We may do 3, 4, 5 shows because there's a lot of people who have their own questions, and as long as they keep calling in with the question, as long as you guys keep calling in, we'll keep doing a show on the topic.
You just call in so William cannot ask any. Just keep bugging the phone line so he's not going to ask me anything. So at least we'll get somewhere on this show.
so we'll go from that right there.
I got you there, buddy.
You got me, man. Nailed. I was going to say something really bad. Nailed.
All right, so
okay. There you go.
I'll try and answer quickly. I do have a video on my YouTube channel at Rabbi Chaim Kaufman that actually goes through the different the different communities. We'll start with the easier one first. You got, let's say, the more modern Orthodox community. They're, keep Shabbos, they keep the holidays, etc. But, they're much more into the secular world. They may not have necessarily an issue, certainly with dress. They're not going to dress black and white or, white and dark gray or dark blue, with a hat or whatever. They'll wear, pink, they'll wear blue, they'll wear other types of, colors there. They'll be very big in, secular education. Secular education is a very important thing, certainly by them. They'll be more Zionistic, they'll be more Zionistically, certainly inclined. That's for sure. Now, put everyone else, I'll lump everyone else together. You got Chabad, Hasidic, ultra Orthodox, Yeshivish. So probably, let's say 98%, everyone more or less agrees, on the main things, within Judaism. There are different customs. I mean, you have Sephardic people also, that have different customs. Now, by Sephardic people, it's interesting. The prayers are a little bit different. The dress, again, can be the same or not. It depends if they're gonna, dress white and black or not. They're different. It depends on the community. Most of them certainly don't dress white, white and black or white and blue or, whatever, different shades, different shades also, but when it comes to, the other groups, certainly by the Yeshivish or more ultra Orthodox, definitely more of an emphasis on learning, even though by the modern crowd, learning, is not important. It's just, not the most important thing. By an ultra Orthodox Jew, nothing more important than learning, and that's where, for argument's sake, that's where the majority of rabbinic, rabbinic judges come from that camp. More than 60%, come from that camp. So they're also, part of the secular world. They'll definitely dress white and black or white and blue or whatever. They're, with a hat. If you're Hasidic, you might wear a spudik, a more, a strimal, different, depending on the different types of Hasidus. So they're also, into learning to a certain extent, but they'll learn for a much shorter amount of time, and then, they'll go to work. And someone who's more in the yeshivish camp, more ultra-Orthodox camp, that's not Hasidic, certainly, will try and, learn as long as they can. Their wives will help them, parents will help them, etc. But that is the, ultimate goal, is to produce, Torah scholars. Chabad, they are Hasidim. Their thing is more doing, Jewish outreach, looking for Jews that don't know that much about Torah. They're all over the place in, big cities, small cities, out of town places, the middle of nowhere, etc. They're probably, when it comes to conversion, probably more than any other group, are more user friendly, than than the other. Than the other groups, and they have a different, definitely different mixture of people that pray, in their synagogues, from anywhere from, Chabad to Ultra Orthodox to anyone who's not religious, right? They have a whole different, mixture. By the Ultra Orthodox and the Hasidim, their congregations are much more fluid. They're more, they're more the same. They dress the same. They have the same. They have the same. They have the same Jewish outlook. Philosophical outlook. Etc. And Sephardim or Sephardic people, are within the same, within the same range as the, Ultra Orthodox. Some are more traditional, some less traditional. Etc. But they can fall anywhere, anywhere in between, in between those, in between those spectrums. So since I came from almost all worlds, I started out in the modern Orthodox community, ended up in the Ultra Orthodox community. That's a whole discussion, exactly how I got there. But I've been, part of that community and still continue to be part of that community, for the last 25 years. So, there are major, I mean, when I talk about learning and dress code, I mean, okay, dress code doesn't mean everything, right? But the emphasis on learning, I'm not saying, nobody in the modern Orthodox community, focuses on learning. You have some that do, and and most, most sort of give a lip service. There are some that do take it more seriously. There's different, different gradations. But in the Ultra Orthodox community, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that is the most important thing is Jewish scholarship and in learning. If you have to work, you do, because you have to support your family. But we're not looking at the secular world as being the ultimate, right? We're part of the secular world because we have to be, not necessarily because we want to be. So if you want to learn computers, architecture, other things, so you're going to find different ways to do it, in a setting that's more, that's more conducive, right? To your religious beliefs. In the modern Orthodox world, they won't have a problem sending their kids to college, right? So that's fraught with all kinds of, different things that probably aren't so good, that, those influence, but they're, they'll be known to be more, I guess a little more open. And, there are plenty of people that, start off their way, some end up that way, and, some move on. It depends where, it depends where a person's, holding. For someone to go from like, being, a Christian to now wanting to become a Jew, and they want to, they're not going to be black and white. It's like, unless the person's going in that direction. There are plenty of people that go in the Hasidic direction because they want to sing and dance a little bit more, and there is what to be said for that. They, there's a lot more, there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on, on that, on prayer, where many people feel in the yeshiva world, in the Ultra Orthodox world, it's somewhat dry. I'll tell one quick story. Someone, I know a great rabbi, who's a psychologist, also deals with people at night. And there was a boy like 14, 15 years old that, was having issues in, etc. So he said, my father is so yeshivish. He said, he's so yeshivish. He said the songs that you sing on Shabbos, he read them. He didn't even sing. Right, so like it just like gave him like a sour taste in his mouth, because it was like very robotic. There are people that feel that it's you should be able to sing a little bit more, you should be able to enjoy a little bit more. Right. It's not just so heavy, and it shouldn't be so dry. So that's why I think a lot of converts end up becoming either they stay Chabad or they go to other. So there are many that become Breslov, right? Breslov is a type of Hasidus also. Which is, they sing and dance a little bit more. They go out into fields and commune. They do a number of things to draw themselves closer to God. It's not, necessarily, the norm of what the yeshiva world does, but, whatever brings a person closer. So there are different, there are different shades, certainly, certainly of that. So, that's a little bit of, I have a little bit of background. I mean, there's more to say, but I think we can.
Right.
I think we can cut it. I think we can cut it at at that. So again, just go on my YouTube channel, Rabbi Chaim Koff, and there's a video there about about Jewish communities. There's also a video there about did you think the process was going to be so easy? And that's about the rabbinic court process. So if you want a good laugh, if you want a good laugh, and you're not for the faint, it's certainly not for the faint of heart, then I think you should watch it. But I made one disclaimer at the beginning. I said this is gonna be smoking. So I said since this thing is gonna be smoking, then you better turn it off right now because I don't think you understand what you're in for. And I just went on for like 45 minutes just jumping up and down, yelling and screaming. So if you watch that and get the guts, then either you're the real deal or doo 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 doo. Anyway, so
That's
we'll
funny.
We'll leave it at that.
All right, that sounds good. Well, it looks like we're definitely rolling into a part 2 next week. So there's been enough interest and comments on the YouTube channel, as well as a couple other questions that I came up with. So you guys don't want my questions. You better be calling in with your own.
No question.
So thank you all for tuning in.
Out of
Exactly. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you same time, same place, Hashem willing. If you guys want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, do that. Turn on the notifications, little bell next to subscribe. Hit that button. Tell it to turn on the notifications so you can tell when we're recording. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys again later. Rabbi, thanks again for your time. And thank you all once again for tuning in. Shalom, shalom. Take care.
always a pleasure. Shalom, shalom.
כולם ביחד, חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. חושבים דוברים לובשים בכל האופנים, זה טבעם של אנשים שונים. נזכור בסוף כולנו שותפים, חשוב תמיד להיות אנושיים. חושבים דוברים לובשים